Hi, this is Anna Bevan Gravely with NCFREE, and I am joined by Mike Clampitt, who is running in House District 119. Before we get started, Mike, is there anything that you would like to share with our membership?
Thank you so much for taking the time to accommodate this personal interview during this crisis that we have, and using this as a tool to get my face, as ugly as it may be in gray, out there to the public in time to let people know who I am.
Awesome. We'll dive right into the questions. Have you ever owned a business or been in a management position within a business?
That's a yes. My dad had a service station when I was growing up, so I worked the mom and pop shop service station here in Bryson City for about 7 years. When I left here, went to work fire department. I had a sideline business, remodeling and doing upfits to stores, large, big box, commercial, home repair stores and things like that. So yes, I'm familiar with that and have done that.
Awesome. Are those roosters in the background?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sitting on my front porch.
That is awesome.
I can give you a view of what I'm looking at. But, yeah, roosters back down the hill from the house. In fact, there's a whole gaggle of chickens down there.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad we could be a part of all of that. That's awesome. So second question, sorry if I digressed. Would you say that the current level of federal and state taxation is too high, too low, or just about right?
Let me preface that answer by saying I was in the State House in the 16 to 18 time period. And one of the things that we worked for, the Republican majority, of which I am a Republican candidate for North Carolina House 119, Swain, Jackson, Haywood counties, it was reduce the number of restrictions, cut taxes and overheads to mom and pop businesses and all commercial businesses, regardless of the size, could take and increase profit margins and hire more individuals to do the job. And that's the philosophy that I will continue to take back to Raleigh. I don't think that, as the old saying goes for the left to say, any tax is a good tax. I disagree with that. I think that we need to be good stewards of the money that we collect from the people and use it diligently and frugally. And as far as regulations go, the less regulation, the more free enterprise we can have, and more competition with that.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Right now, our taxes, we've done a great job. When I say we in the House had a progressional sunsetting some taxes, reducing taxes, and being more frugal with the money that we did receive. Look at the state surplus budget for disasters. We increased it tremendously in my 2 years when I was down there, taking into account the problems like the hurricanes and issues like we're in right now. The rainy day fund is there to be able to help and adjunct and not have to put a burden on people, especially right now when people aren't working.
Yeah. So do you feel it's appropriate for state or local governments to offer incentives to private businesses in consideration of locating, expanding, or conducting business in a specific part of the state?
Well, let me start by saying I'm not for corporate welfare, but I am for joint ventures between the public and government and local agencies to adjunct and enhance opportunities for business growth, housing growth, and internet growth. And I think that's going to be the solution in the future, to have more productive solutions between government agencies and private agencies and local government agencies to be able to solve some of the issues we have. Number one, government can't do everything. I don't know whether people understand. My background was fire service, 28 years as a fire captain, etc. After the 9/11 thing, there was some things we learned. One of the things was, if you're waiting on the government to come and help you on a disaster, in COVID, it's going to be a couple of weeks before we can get in there and do anything. So point being is, with government incentives, I don't think we should give away the farm to be able to entice a business in, but we should have a set plan with set objectives and commitments by the business, so they don't come in and scalp the community by getting all the incentives and breaks and tax breaks and taking the land and then not fulfilling their obligation.
Mm-hmm.
For employment center. We got some examples in Swain County, and I don't want to go really into it, but if you're going to put a facility in and you're saying you're going to hire 20 people,
Mm-hmm.
then put your facility in, hire the 20 people. Don't put the facility in and take advantage of all the infrastructure and say, we're going to only put 5 people in there. That's breach of contract.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Describe your personal opinion as to what the key principles of free enterprise are.
I have a product. I want to sell that product. My neighbor has a product. They want to sell the product. So we competitively price our products for the public to what the public would be willing to pay for the products that we want to sell, whatever it might be. If it's farm-raised tomatoes, and I've got a fruit stand down beside the road that says honor system, weigh your tomatoes and take whatever. And I know that's a very simplistic example, but competition is what drives prices. Right now with this pandemic and this crisis we have, I was amazed to find out today that hamburger is $7.98 a pound here in Bryson City. $7.98 a pound for a pound of hamburger. People aren't working. I'm retired, so I have a fixed income, and I understand that the food supply and food chain we have right now is in jeopardy with all this because of the number of meat processing plants that's been shut down and people's concern on cross contamination. So we've got some issues to where people need to be, 1, self-reliant, 2, dependent on a stable food supply, and 3, it be affordable.
Yeah. So this next question is very timely with all that we're experiencing in coronavirus. And also I feel like you would have a very unique perspective, having served before in the General Assembly. In your opinion, what is the appropriate balance in the scope of federal and state regulatory requirements on business? And what, in your opinion, is the best way to balance the appropriate protections without impugning economic vitality?
That's a very good question. And with that, the answer can be simplistic or be very complicated. Now that talks in a circle, but it's like this. Number 1, federal overreach. States, I believe we have a obligation to our citizens of our state to prohibit federal overreach. The federal government, there's certain agencies from time to time that strong arm the local states into doing things that are economically unfeasible and cost prohibitive for businesses. States, on the other hand, can do the same thing, and hopefully the feds would put a rein back on the states. But I guess the best example I can give you is I was a fire inspector as well as a captain of the fire department. We had some stuff sometimes that we had to do on inspections that just for a mom and pop shop were a little ludicrous, but it was simply because that had been enacted and people were expected to follow it. The thing is, it was not always a good thing. When I say a good thing, is some of the, if I use the word tariff, taxes, or permitting fees, which they're all fall in the same category, to be able to sell certain items, the city of Charlotte put a requirement that you had to buy a permit. Well, that's just another tax. Well, when you do another tax, guess what happens? The price of that product goes up because the people, the owners, have to pass on the cost of that permitting fee on to the customer. So as the permitting fees go up for more products, so does the prices go up. Well, that's not healthy for competition, because who's the beneficiary of that? The government. So the government shouldn't be in the process of turning a profit as such. you know what I'm trying to say there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. When, if elected in the fall, what would be your top 3 priorities as it pertains to the business community?
Thank you for that. That's a very good question. Um, and it was something I worked on when I was down there in my 2 years, and continually have a scope and is on my radar. One is, we're a successful business here in Western North Carolina, Swain, Jackson, and Haywood counties. Education, industry, small business, large in business, medical, we've got to have internet. And we've got to have a dependable internet system. And the only way it's going to be solved is through corporate partnerships between local government, state government, the federal government, and some of the restrictions on allowing operation of internet companies and private sector. Without internet, which I say the wave of the future, in light of what's happened right now, for education to continue for the schools, and those 2 boys here at the house, and both of them have to do virtual learning through the computer and the homework assignment. We're going to have that for all 3 counties, Swain, Jackson, Haywood. And that's one aspect. The second part of that is, I'll tie it to healthcare. We have some issues here in Western North Carolina as far as the healthcare in the business community, and it has to do with abuse of some substance. So that creates a workforce problem for business to come in and work. To come in and put a business in, they've got to have a viable workforce. Our workforce has become somewhat drug dependent. And because of that, they don't and can't relocate or locate a business here in Western North Carolina because of that particular issue. So we've got to do some education and support services with that. And I work voluntarily with a local group, Impact, to be able to take and bring education and training for folks with that. The third avenue is housing. To be able to have a viable workforce for any industry, we've got to have affordable housing. That's something that is nil here in Swain County, Jackson County, and Haywood County. We don't have, when I say affordable housing, for the income that people have to spend 85% of their weekly income just for housing is unreachable. It's unattainable. So we need to have more locations, and it's one of those things, it's a catch-22. When I've discussed it with those leaders in Raleigh in the past about having affordable housing, they go, well, it's so expensive to develop the land in the mountain. Well, yeah, it's in the mountains, and it's not flat like it is the Piedmont. So yes, it is expensive, but I think the payoff in the long run is substantial for us, because one, we have an increase in population, we have an increase in the workforce, and we have people that we're essentially vitalizing the area, and that's a good thing, I think. So those are my 3.
Awesome.
I hope. Okay.
Yeah, that's great. So before we close out our time together, where can our members go to learn more about you?
Well, the best place right now is to go to Facebook. I've got NC House Mike Clampitt. I think that's correct. Anyhow, if you put Mike Clampitt and Google me on Google or Wikipedia, whatever, I'm the top 10 that come up, etc. There's good information, some disinformation, etc. But let me put it this way too. I'm not above taking personal phone calls. If someone has a real issue and has something they want to talk to me about, my cell number is 828-736-6222. 828-736-6222. And as a legislator, constituent services was my number 1 priority. And it was, to me, the most important thing that I could do was make myself available to the constituents, that they could feel they could call me anytime. And I prefer daylight hours. But the point being, the 2 o'clock in the morning calls to the fire department, poked and over. But point being is, it's like being on a fire department. Their problem is the most important thing to them at that time. Just like the person's problem nowadays is their most important thing at that time. So I needed to make my priority and assist them to come to some kind of resolution. And in my tenure in the past, I had a 95 to 99% success rate of solving people's issues when they called the office. And we had a 48-hour turnaround time to get back with them on email or phone calls. And my LA and I were able to accomplish that. And one quick funny story is, I would even answer my own phone. This is in the State House. I had a guy tell me one day, I don't want to talk to you. I said, well, sir, I'm your legislator. I want to talk to the legislative assistant. He knows everything.
Oh, that is so funny.
So, bottom line is, yes, the LAs can make or break you. And the bottom line is, I'm very appreciative of the one I had down there. But and I didn't take it as a slam. I got a real chuckle when I got it, because I said, we're going to trade offices. I'll put you in here and I'll sit out there. And when they say they want to see the rep, I'll point to you. He laughed.
That is so funny. Oh gosh, hilarious. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us and letting us hear more about your record and things that you want to continue and do if elected in the fall. So thank you very much for your time.
Yes, ma'am. If I can do anything for you, you have my email address. Feel free to reach out and contact. And again, being here in the mountains, we do have, like you heard the roosters, you can hear them sometimes before you get the email. But don't give up on me. Try a phone call.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Have a blessed day. Be safe and safe travels.
You too.